obviously being a teacher, you have to learn all the instruments to a degree. What was your main principle, your main discipline?
My primary instrument is percussion. So all things drumming and anything you hit to make a sound. That's the definition they teach you in college is if you hit it to make a sound, it's a percussion instrument. And we play everything from propane tanks to railroad ties and whatever else. But then, in college, we did have to take classes on every single instrument and learn how to play them. And the final exam was like to bring in somebody off the street, and you had 10 minutes to teach them how to play the instrument. And they had to be able to make a sound after 10 minutes, like be able to put it together on their own and make a sound after 10 minutes, which is intense. But if you can do that, then the theory is that you can teach a sixth grader to do it in a year.
Each day at Wesley Meadows is a new opportunity to serve older adults and reimagine retirement living. It is the heart of their mission that inspires their team to provide the kind of fun atmosphere and care residents would want for themselves. Experience the warm spirit and faith-based difference of Wesley Meadows. Call 662-429-2070 and schedule your visit today. Hello and welcome to The Real Hernando, presented to you by Wesley Meadows Retirement Community and SRP Studios. This podcast was created to spotlight Hernando's nonprofit organizations and community leaders by sharing their stories and what led them to serve the community. We hope these stories help strengthen the fabric of the city we love so near and dear. Please follow us at therealhernando.com for all channels and social media platforms. I am your host, Derek, and today I am talking to Joseph Quinnelly, director of the middle school bands and assistant director in the high school band. The Hernando Band program serves as the source of instrumental music instruction for all students in grades 6 through 12 at Hernando Middle School and Hernando High School in Hernando. They perform and compete at various events throughout Mississippi and around the country. For more information on the Hernando Band program, go to hernandobands.com. Joseph, man, it's a pleasure having you here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so earlier we were talking about, the direction I'm taking this podcast in and getting granular, organizations, leaders, but
absolutely.
I think it's, when we talk about school programs, choir, band, sports, that's especially down here in the South, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The band here is exceptional. I think a few people have heard of you guys around here. So when I knew I was able to have you in here, I was excited. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about, a lot about the band and what it offers, the different kinds of bands, how parents can get involved, how the community can help support, but we also want to get to know you.
Okay.
Hopefully a bunch of students watch this.
That'd be great. Yeah.
They'd be like, Mr. Quinnelly is cool. He's on a podcast. I wonder if he's going to be on TikTok. Sorry, we're not on Snapchat. TikTok, yes, but not Sorry, kids. But awesome. So, if before we get into you, let's talk about the band in some sense, and then dig deeper into you. So, how long have you been working in the Hernando Band program?
Next week, actually, I'll finish my 6th year working full time with the band. I actually student taught with the band the spring before that. Okay. So 6.5 years total, but 6 years full time, and so I've gotten to see it really do some cool things and grow a lot, even in that short time.
So you're mainly the middle school.
So I spend half my day. We actually all 4 band directors spend half our day at the middle school and half our day at the high school.
Similar to the choir program?
Yes, very similar. Their schedule's a little bit different. They kind of jump back and forth, but ours is just a straight ahead half and half. Mm-hmm. And so I'm officially employed by the middle school, but we all work, team teach together all the way through 6 through 12.
When it comes to the halftime shows at the football games, is that a mixture of high and middle too?
So the students for that are all high school students that actually perform. But the staff is all 4 band directors, and a lot of other people assist with that as well. We have a pretty large staff, but yeah.
a large band. I
Yes.
mean, you bring out a little PA, all these pianos. We're joking about all the xylophones you have.
Yeah.
I'm a bass player by trade,
Okay.
so I even see there's a bass player out there, and
Yeah.
it's just it's outstanding, and all that the choreography that goes along with that is
It's
pretty good.
absolutely something. Yeah.
I remember a game this last season. I just wasn't keeping up with y'all's schedule of what was going on, and it was halftime, and I was like, "Why is it so quiet? Like, what's going? Like, where's the band?"
Yeah.
Everyone was like, and finally someone told me, "Oh no, they're out competing and everything." And I'm telling you what, man, it was so different just having a plain old empty halftime show.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're glad that our kids love the football games. I mean, they do the competitive stuff on Saturdays and that's cool, and that builds the band's resume and gives them cool experiences, but there's nothing quite like a Friday night football game, especially in a smaller town like this. It's a pretty cool atmosphere for the kids.
Yeah,
So,
we love it. I love it,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, let's learn a little more about you. So I see you're from Texarkana?
Texarkana. Yeah.
Texarkana. What brought you out here?
So I am from Texarkana. It's one of the only. It sits on the state line of Texas and Arkansas, and so got to make sure Texarkana, Texas, not the Arkansas side.
Just like Memphis, West
Yeah,
Memphis.
exactly. Yeah, my kids love to give me a hard time that they tell me I'm from Arkansas all the time, and I'm from Texas.
Well, I know Kansas City.
yeah, it's a
they
big
take it
deal.
seriously
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Are you St. Louis? I mean, are you Kansas or Missouri?
Yeah. But then my whole family is from Mississippi. So both my mom went to Ole Miss, my dad went to Southern. They met in Jackson and then moved out there for work. And so when I was looking at colleges, Ole Miss was always kind of on the radar. And when I came and visited, I mean, it's a beautiful campus and the music department's really good. And so it was a no-brainer. And Texas is such a large state that it was actually closer for me to go to Ole Miss than it was for me to go like travel-wise than a lot of the places in Texas.
Because you're north.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. But Texas is just so massive that
it's its own country.
Yeah, and so like it was when I was looking at it, I was like, well, I mean, it'd take me 9 hours to get to Texas Tech and only 5.5 to get to Ole Miss, and that kind of thing. So it wasn't that out of the realm of possibilities. And then, like I said, straight out of college, I student taught at Hernando my last semester, and then one of the band directors happened to move to a different school, and so they just hired me right out of student teaching into the staff.
That's great. That's awesome. So I've had the fortune to go to the Ford Theater often because of my daughter and her involvement in the Hernando Singers and Choir Rio. And it's really awesome theater. It's a nice campus, and there was so there's two competitions, one in Ole Miss and one in Northwest. And the one in Ole Miss, the Ole Miss choir comes out. So it was so impactful. Of course, she was like, "I want to go to Ole Miss, Dad." Of course you do. Yeah, we might need to think about that.
Yeah.
So when you were looking for school and going into music, was the Ole Miss program kind of eye-opening to you?
Yeah, I mean, it was growing up in my part of Texas, there's not a whole lot of large college bands. We're pretty far from Austin and College Station where A&M is. I mean, I'd watched videos and stuff, but actually the first time I visited Ole Miss was the weekend of a Ole Miss University of Texas football game. And
of course, Texas.
I know, right? But Texas didn't bring their band, but the Ole Miss band came out, and it was one of the largest bands I'd ever laid eyes on. I mean, and it was just loud, and they're just having a blast. And that's one thing Ole Miss does very well is have fun.
Same with their choir.
Yeah,
the choir is incredible. And when they came out and gave all the students a show, it was a high end, like high end gospel kind of vibe.
Oh, yeah.
And with they brought up drums and
absolutely
and got the place fired up.
Oh, for sure. And that's how it was for me. And I just remember it was a large university, but it felt a little smaller. Like I had toured other places and I never really, the band directors met me, but that was about it. But this guy, and he actually just retired last year. He'd been there for 30 years, but the band director at Ole Miss sat me down and asked what my parents did and asked all about me. And then he actually asked if we were going to the football game. And I said, no, we're just going to go to the Grove and kind of hang out. And he got us free tickets for the football game and all that kind of stuff. And so that kind of is what tipped the scale for me to come drive all the way to Mississippi to go to school there. Was just, it felt like a little bit smaller of a community, tighter knit. And so
Oxford's a beautiful city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great town square. So obviously being a teacher, you have to learn all the instruments to a degree. What was your main discipline?
My primary instrument is percussion. So all things drumming and anything you hit to make a sound. That's the definition they teach you in college is if you hit it to make a sound, it's a percussion instrument. And we play everything from propane tanks to railroad ties and whatever else. But then, in college, we did have to take classes on every single instrument and learn how to play them. And the final exam was like to bring in somebody off the street, and you had 10 minutes to teach them how to play the instrument. And they had to be able to make a sound after 10 minutes, like be able to put it together on their own and make a sound after 10 minutes, which is intense. But if you can do that, then the theory is that you can teach a sixth grader to do it in a year, so.
And on the theory side of things, you need to learn how to transpose for a trumpet as opposed to a clarinet.
Absolutely. And be able to do that on the fly when you're standing in front of all those instruments at the same time, be able to tell a clarinet, no, that's that note for you, whereas it might be something different for a tuba. And and so teaching you to do that all while doing several multitasking is very important.
Treble clef, bass clef, where it lives on the staff.
Absolutely.
And again, to go back to my daughter, I think it's wild that she is getting more involved, but she knows the basics of reading sheet music for vocals. It's just cool to me.
Absolutely.
I've been a bass player, musician for 30 years. I learned everything by ear. So when I see a staff, I don't know what that is.
When I started on the drum set when I was like 8 years old.
So that's why
so it was the same type of thing. Is I would listen to something on the radio and try to play along with it. And then when I got to sixth grade, I knew I wanted to be a percussionist, and they were the ones that actually took me and said, "Well, you can play that, but here's what it looks like on paper." And now I can read. It's almost like learning another language. I was actually talking to a principal about it a couple of days ago at the middle school because something he's kind of interested in. And I said, it really is like learning when you can do it well, you can read it as fast as we read novels,
The sheet music for drums connects with me a little more. Yeah. Because it's not notes, it's the part of the drum. So like the kick drum has its same spot, the snare has its spot.
Absolutely.
To me, that makes more sense to me. It's more like
it's more cut and dry. Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost like a digital type of deal.
Absolutely.
But of all the instruments, is drums your favorite?
Percussion is definitely my favorite. If I had to pick a second one, I tell the kids all the time I would probably play the French horn, actually, which is kind of a weird one.
Oh, wow.
But
is that a reed? That's a reed instrument.
It's not, but it's a brass instrument. It's kind of related to the trumpet. It's a circular brass instrument.
Okay.
But the reason I always say that, and the kids look at me the same way, like, why? That's kind of a weird one. Why not trumpet or saxophone or something like that? But if you go listen to any movie score, like Jurassic Park or Star Wars, or all of the coolest moments, that's French horn.
Interesting.
Like John Williams, who's one of the most famous movie composers.
Is that where that emotion comes in? That certain tenor to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like any of the moments where like something big is happening, it's going to be the dinosaurs walking out on Jurassic Park. That's a French horn going to be playing right there.
So that's a French horn.
Yeah, and so that's why I always said, like, now that I've been playing music and reading, teaching band and stuff, they always have like I'm always jealous because they have the cool parts.
That's really cool.
So yeah.
But of the percussion world, what's your favorite? Just traditional drums, or
so I do like drumming. Probably, if I had to pick what I am best at, it would probably be the marimba, which is like a giant xylophone. It's one of the things you see out there on the field.
Well, that's right. So xylophones are considered.
They are percussion.
Yeah.
All of that is percussion.
But they make notes, which makes them very unique.
Right. And so there's different xylophones are a little smaller, and then they can get as large as like 8 to 10 feet, and they're called marimbas. And they originated in like Central and South America. And you can play them like with 2 mallets in one hand. And
I'm just going to bring up the double mallet deal.
Like absolutely. That's very common for our students.
Between 2 hands, you got 4 mallets. And these kids are just going nuts on these things. I'm like, the accuracy.
It's pretty insane. but that's why I like that instrument, is because it can do so much.
Yeah.
And it's the closest you can get to playing a piano without like actually, you don't have 10 fingers, but you got 4 mallets. It's pretty close.
And the way the intervals lay out and everything.
It's laid out
there.
exactly like a piano. It's just the keys are all the same color instead of black and white.
Right, so it's harder to decipher the flats.
Yeah, but you're not having to do, like, I have mad respect for piano players, and we have those in the band as well, because I can do 4 things at a time, but doing 10 things at a time becomes a whole nother ballgame.
Go out to some of these places in Memphis where, I'll just say it, the black bands.
Yeah.
Typically the black keyboard player is handling all the bass with his left hand.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming from the gospel, background. It's incredible.
It is, absolutely.
How they can separate hands to do totally different things and sing.
Absolutely, yeah. That's beyond my ability. Yeah,
but well, let's talk about now Hernando and the bands. How many different ensembles are in the high school, middle school? What are we looking at there?
So at the middle school, it's pretty cut and dry. It's by grade level, and so 6th grade has a concert band, 7th grade has a concert band, 8th grade has a concert band. The 8th grade concert band is the only one that goes to events and does things. 6th grade, we're just teaching you how it works. And by the end, we do 2 concerts, and we're just really showing your parents how much you've learned in a year. And 7th grade is real similar to that. But then by 8th grade, you're playing at football games, and you're going to state competitions and things like that. And so
every 8th grader, or do you have to be at a certain level?
Oh no, we take everybody. That's one thing I really like about band, is that we don't close the door on anybody. Very similar to choir. Yeah. Like everybody has a place in band, and there's we're never going to tell a kid, no, you can't do this. Like, we will find something in all ability levels and all types of people. So
when you go to a high school football game, there's 8th graders in the marching too?
No, so they're not. They come once you get to high school band, you start.
So you said 8th graders are at football games?
They go to middle school football games.
Oh,
yeah.
Gotcha.
They play.
Oh, so they're the middle school marching
absolutely.
band. Yeah. So now they're getting their legs under
so
them.
they start all that kind of stuff in 8th grade, and they have a blast. We learn, the fight songs and different stuff for them to play up in the stands, and they only go to like 2 games a year. But the parents they come up and tell me how, like you said, how much of a difference it makes just to have people in the stands playing stuff while the game's going on.
That was the other part earlier when I was like, "Where's the band?" It was honestly during the game that was the weirdest.
Yeah, because it's just maybe playing some canned music out of the
speakers. You got Robert Carter up there in the booth.
So at the middle school, we 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then some years we have a middle school jazz band, which is a cool thing that we're able to do sometimes. And then in the spring we do something called it's called like the indoor activities. So what it is basically is marching band's in the fall, and somebody back in the 80s or 90s decided it's too cold, but we want to keep doing this stuff. So let's go inside and do it in the gym. And so now there's this whole competitive circuit of inside band. It's still marching band, but it's inside. Mm-hmm. But they actually break it up. And so there's color guard only, which is flags and rifles and all that kind of stuff. And then winds, which is woodwind and brass, and then percussion. And so at the middle school, we're one of the only, maybe the only, in fact, I know we're the only school in the state of Mississippi that has a middle school only indoor percussion competitive group. They go out and compete against other people's high schools. So
that's cool.
And
that challenge would really elevate them.
Oh yeah. And that was the whole point. We used to do like a mixed group, middle school and high school, and we grew to the point where we could support 2. But we didn't want to just tell those 8th graders, no, go home, you'll get to do it when you get to high school. So this year we actually had 7th and 8th grade kids out there competing against seniors in high school.
That's setting the bar for them.
Yeah, and at some of the local competitions, they came away with first place and stuff. I mean, it was very cool to watch, 12, 13, 14-year-olds take on the challenge of like that kid's 18. But
and then when they get to our high school level, I mean, they're just advanced.
Yeah, that's the idea. And so when you get to high school, there's a lot going on. And so we have in the fall, the face of the band program obviously is the marching band. And that's the thing everybody says, we march them down the street at parades. And so that's our biggest thing in the fall. And this upcoming year we'll have exactly 150 students, which is pretty good size. We would like even more. And we've got large classes coming up in the middle school. So I think in the next few years, you'll see us grow to 175 or more.
Well, that's why they're building a new high school.
Yeah,
right?
that's the idea. Yeah. And so we do marching band in the fall, and then we do in the spring, we have 3 concert bands, which are ability based. And so we divide the students based on their ability into 3 groups. And but all 3 groups compete on a state level, and our premier group, the Symphonic Winds, are going. They're starting to apply for like national events and things like that. And so hopefully in the next few years, you'll see us performing in places like Chicago and stuff like that.
5M Services, your comfort specialists. We offer heating, ventilating, and air conditioning service. Call us for any of your HVAC needs. 662-560-7331. We are here for you 24/7.
Gustafson Properties. Gustafson Properties has been building beautiful custom homes in DeSoto County and surrounding areas for over 20 years. Are you ready to build your new custom home? Call us today at 662-449-6271.
Like football, you get schools coming in, looking at the quarterback and looking to bring in. Does the same thing happen with the band? Schools come in and look at high school bands and want to hand out scholarships?
Oh, yeah. We're actually any student that makes it through our band program and graduates as a member of the band and wants to do band in college, we can guarantee them a scholarship.
Really?
Yes. We can guarantee that if they want to go to Northwest, they will go to Northwest almost for free.
Wow.
If they want to go to Ole Miss, it won't be free, but it'll be much cheaper than if you weren't in the band. That's
amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's what we tell parents, and the parents are always a little bit more excited about that than when they're in 5th grade. The kids are like, I don't care about that,
Yeah.
But
come on, son, practice that French horn.
Right?
Let's go.
When you tell a parent like, hey, if this kid sticks with it, they may not have to pay for college. Then they go, wow, I didn't pay a dime to go to Ole Miss.
Wow, man, that's great.
And I tell kids that because it's like it's possible. Like if you got pretty good grades and you do extracurricular stuff like band and choir and things like that, and sports obviously, but the difference there is your chances of playing on the Ole Miss football team are pretty slim compared to your chances of being in the band. Obviously the scholarships are way less for, there's no NIL money for band,
But you still have to try out.
You do have to try out.
They don't accept anybody.
No,
right?
no. You have to be in the band, but we can guarantee that you will get a scholarship. Like that will happen.
That is so great.
But yeah, they come around several times a year and recruit our kids. And some schools, some smaller schools in Mississippi will even do like a signing day, but for the band. And so they'll come in with all the colleges and set up all the stuff. And,
Do you guys have hats? Like
they do some of that sometimes. Yeah. And so we don't do that at Hernando just because of the sheer number of kids that we have go off and play in college groups, but.
Well, you tied in with, that's always exciting for the parents. Let's start talking about that. And parents that might be listening to this, they have a 4th grader, 5th grader, getting close to 6th, coming up. The kids given some interest, but then let's face it, sometimes it's a cost situation with your family. So what are some of the options for families in terms of making sure that it's an affordable option to be on the band?
One thing that you will hear us say a lot if you are in our band program for any length of time is we don't want money to be a reason why you don't participate in band. And band is expensive, relatively so. For what you're getting, it's actually not that bad. But when it's laid out all in front of you all at once, it is kind of daunting to go, wow, that's a lot of money, And the directors are all teachers, so we definitely understand. We look at that amount of money and we go, wow,
you don't have a wall full of guitars and
no,
a Neil Peart drum set.
No, not quite. But there are options out there. When you're in middle school, the biggest expense is going to be an instrument. How do you get an instrument? And for a few of the larger instruments like tubas and things like that are just way more expensive than we could ever expect a sixth grader to be able,
just purely on the material.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars for an instrument that the kid is trying in sixth grade and may go, this isn't for me, and then you're just out that amount of money. And so with really large instruments like that, you can actually rent them from the school and for like $100 a year or $150 a year, which is way less than what they actually cost. You turn it back in at the end of the school year and check it back out the next year.
Awesome.
And so we're able to do that with some other instruments. And along the way, we've acquired a few things because people will graduate and not go on to college band, and they feel like giving back, so they donate their instrument back to the band or something like that. Yeah. Or they move and forget it. And that was 30 years ago, and so now the Hernando Band has this instrument. We've got a couple of those.
It's where lost and found.
You're looking at it.
There's a 10-year mark. After that, it's public domain.
No law. It hasn't had a name on it since I've worked. So that kind of stuff. But as far as you're just run-of-the-mill kid that's say they're going to play the clarinet, that's a really common one. There's a music store up in Memphis called Amro.
That's right.
And they have a great rent-to-own program. And so
right
they break it down. Yeah. And they break it, and we're really lucky to be so close to them.
They cover a large area,
a huge. I mean, Kentucky and Arkansas and half of Tennessee, and now down past Jackson, and
wow.
And so we're really lucky that we can just run 20 minutes up the road. Mm-hmm. But they actually send a rep from their company to our band hall once a week to repair instruments and do all that kind of stuff, which is all included in the cost of the monthly fee. And I can't remember what it is, but it's
like
something
rent to own, or it's a payment plan.
It's a payment plan, but the cool thing is with it being banned, if your student decides not to continue, you're not out the rest of that money. Right. With it being rent to own, eventually you do own it, but you're not having to pay the difference.
That was me. Band started for me in 5th grade.
Okay.
In my schools up in Maine. And I don't know why I chose the trombone.
There you
go. From the testing, I didn't have the mouth for a reed.
Okay.
Right? So they're like, trombone. I was like, great. But after 4 months, it just wasn't clicking with me. And I remember my mom saying, all right, if you don't want to do this, we need to make this decision now.
Yeah.
So, otherwise.
Because the longer you're in it, the more investment you put in it to never get back. You know?
So I was like, all right, cool, and that was it, But then I became a guitar player, and that clicked.
Yeah, absolutely. My brother was the same way. He tried trumpet for a year and was really good at it, and then just decided that's not for me. Mm-hmm. And now he's a professional artist in Dallas, and that was his thing, Whereas that is not my thing at all, So everybody has their own thing, and I tell kids all the time when they're in 5th grade, try it. If it's not your thing, go find your thing. That's what middle school's for. I tell them to try as many things. If you want to play volleyball and sing in the choir and be in band and do yearbook and whatever, do all of it.
Because you'll eventually find that thing.
Yeah, you'll eventually settle into your thing. And kids ask me all the time, should I do band or should I do athletics? And I think for as long as you can, you should do both. Mm-hmm. There comes a time at Hernando, because of the way the schedules work, where you do have to decide between most. There are some sports you can do with band, but football is not one of those things. And there's a lot of guys that want to play football, but that are also good at band. And what I tell them is, I will let you know. When you're in 8th grade and you're making that decision, I've sat down with some kids and said, look, you're really good at football. Go play football, Or we had a kid, he was a great percussionist, and he was on the cross-country team, and he was kind of trying to figure it out. And I said, look, you're pretty good at drumming, but you are great at running. Go run. And now he ended up being, I don't know, placing second in the state or something like that.
And that's helpful to the kid.
Yeah. Sure. And so, I always tell him, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. If you need to be in here with me, if the difference is you're gonna be in sports, but you may never see the field, or you can be with us and you're gonna see the field every week, I'm gonna tell you to be with us. And so we want kids to try everything, and then we'll help them make the decision when the time comes.
I'm a big believer too in that music can just form your brain, educationally, outside of music theory.
Yeah.
It taps into almost like a mathematical thing.
Oh yeah, there's studies that I wish I could cite because I talk about them a lot, but that show the benefits of music education on your grades and all your other academic classes, but especially math and reading, because again, just the way that your brain kind of processes music is very similar to the way it processes words on a page.
Yeah, but you got to do it in a rhythm.
You got to do it,
in time.
Yeah, and so
that's the crazy.
It does help your like reading comprehension because it helps the process in your brain of like how do you take information off a page and process it.
That's it. That's interesting.
And so yeah, there's tons of studies that have been done about how those two things are linked and like the increase in SAT and ACT scores by those kids that have had choir or band or orchestra or something like that. So
let's start talking. Well, I want to get to awards, but while we're on this, how now can parents, community get involved in supporting and boosters and giving back to the programs?
So we are my boss, the head band director, Mr. Kilo, likes to say that anytime the marching band goes anywhere, it's like moving a small city. And it really is like when you
guys have a tractor, like an 18-wheeler.
We have two 18-wheelers parked outside the band hall. One of them moves, the other one's just for storage. But when we roll up to a competition, we'll be either 6 yellow school buses or 4 charter buses, and then a semi truck, a 26-foot pulled by a 3/4-ton truck, and then a staff RV / like medical place. We go with a full medical staff of 2 or 3 registered nurses anywhere we go. And I mean, it really is. It's a huge undertaking to do anything with a group that size.
Yeah.
And so the boosters fundraise year round. Unfortunately, we do still have to charge the kids to be in the marching band just because of the amount of money it takes to do something like that. The cost goes up every year, and we try to keep the cost to the students as low as possible. And the way we're able to do that is through sponsorships and fundraising. And so if the biggest thing parents of students can do is encourage your kid to join band when they're young enough, when they're in that upper elementary school age, going to Oak Grove or wherever they go here in a couple of years once all the schools kind of shift around. Encourage your kids to try band, and then for community members and businesses and stuff like that, just you can support the Band Boosters by becoming a sponsor if you're a business, or even individuals can sponsor. There's different levels of sponsorship, all the way from like $250 up to several $1,000s. And that's a huge portion of what we do. I think last year we raised over $20,000 doing that, which is great. And that's a sizable chunk of the much larger amount that the boosters go through every year. And so that's one thing that can really help. And it's cool to be in a place like Hernando where the businesses do support, but we're always looking for, new businesses that crop up or businesses that haven't heard of us or anything like that. And then just regular community members can, there's always needs that the boosters put out. If they can follow us on social media, Hernando High School Band, the Marching Tigers is our Facebook name.
Yeah, it took me a minute to find that.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange one. It's an old one. But then there's also a Hernando Band Boosters page, I believe, as well. And on there, they'll put out, from time to time, they will put out needs and things like that.
And all these links are in the description.
Yeah, and check out our website, which you mentioned at the beginning. But there's always things like that. One of the coolest fundraisers that we do that's super community-based is the Hernando Band Flag Project.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever noticed on Memorial Day and several times during the year, we have now over 100 subscribers, and then the city is actually a subscriber as well. And so we put up American flags in people's yards all over town. And so this is something I grew up as a Boy Scout in Texarkana, and this is something that the Boy Scouts did. The Rotary Club was the leader of it, but the Boy Scouts helped do the actual manual labor. And they would put out like 5,000 flags around the city on flag flying holidays. So like President's Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, those type of things.
So the flags, were they purchased?
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
Well, so if you subscribe, and you can do so through our website, there's a tab for the flag project. If you subscribe, you pay $50. And
one-time fee?
Once a year. So it's a subscription. Annual subscription, $50. And then 6 times a year, a student or a parent, or I get out myself and do it, comes to your yard and puts a flag in your yard. It's a little thing that stays in your yard. It's 9 inches long, so it doesn't affect your yard at all. And then they come out 6 times a year. It's a 10-foot flagpole with a 3-foot by 5-foot American flag and a little gold ball on top of the whole thing. And it sits in your yard and flies for the entirety of the holiday, and then gets picked up at night and taken back to the band hall. And so there's a room in the Hernando Band Hall that's just American flags.
Oh, wow.
But that's a cool fundraiser that we started, I guess, 4 years ago now.
Yeah, who can't get behind that?
Yeah, and especially in a town like Hernando,
yes.
$50 annual subscription.
Yes.
But it really does help the band a lot.
That's a very creative.
Well,
I would have never thought of anything like that.
Like I said, it was something I did growing up, and then we heard of a small town up in Tennessee that did it, and it kind of reminded me of it, and I was like, well, let's see if we can do this here, because it seems like kind of the perfect town to do it. So
you're part of the Hernando Inception version?
I am. Yeah,
cool.
It was. I have a massive spreadsheet on my computer of everybody that's ever done it and all that kind of stuff. And it was really cool this past year that the city came on board. And so we are now, I'm sure you've noticed the flags that get put out on the telephone poles around town. Yeah. For a long time, that was done by, I believe, either the Optimist Club or something like that in Hernando. And this past year, the city now has an annual subscription with us, to where we now are the flag supplier of the city of Hernando. And so we put them out around City Hall, and a couple by the Hernando sign out by the interstate, and then we put out all the ones on the telephone pole as well. Yeah, and so that's cool for the city to support the band in that way. You know, Mae Johnson was happy to help. So
that's what community's for.
Absolutely,
that's what makes this place special.
Yeah, and so you can sign up any time during the year, and then you'll wake up one morning on the 4th of July and there's a flag in your front yard.
It's like Easter.
Yeah.
It's
pretty
up.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. And we have people every time that go, oh, I forgot I ordered this. And that's so cool, you know?
We need to move to the awards, because if we're not careful, this could be a 3-hour episode. And we don't have to hit everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, it's the sheet you gave me looks like there's 4 major sections, like Hernando Band, indoor activities, concert bands, marching band, and then overall band info. But I saw this go ahead.
I might just start with some of the more recent things, some of the bigger things. Yeah. So it's been a pretty cool year. We came in second in our state marching competition, which is awesome. In the last, I think it's on the sheet somewhere, but since 2012 or 2013, so maybe in the last decade is how I put it, Hernando has only missed some kind of medal 1 year. And so 9 years out of the last 10, they have received first, second, or third place at the state marching competition, which is very cool. And 4 of those years, they've won the gold medal. Mm-hmm. And so that's pretty cool and pretty unique for, I know Lewisburg has done some similar things when they were in 5A and smaller classes, but that's Hernando in the largest class in the state. So that's pretty cool. And so that was neat in the fall. But then in the spring, we were selected, our concert band was selected to perform at Mississippi State University as like the featured high school concert band. Wow. And so they host a clinic every January, and they bring in students from all over the state. And this year they brought in us to perform for the students on the first night of the event. And so that was really cool for our kids. They got dressed up in tuxes and dresses and went to Starkville and were, rock stars for a day, which is super cool.
Yeah, it's so great for these kids. Yeah. I mean, they feel like they're kicking some butt out there.
Yeah, and then probably the biggest accomplishments that are recent in the last month, I guess. We went to 2 of our indoor groups. So our varsity winter guard, which is a group of, I think it had 15 students in it, the top 15 color guard students. And then the other group was our high school indoor percussion group, which is a group of all those xylophones and things that you see, but also the drum line. And both of those groups went up to Ohio and competed in world championships. And so our color guard was competing against groups from other countries, not just around the United States, but other countries. And I think there was something in the color guard in their class alone, just in that sized group, there were like 140 groups from all over the world. And for the first time in school history, both of those groups, neither one had ever made it past the semifinal stage. And the drums had never even been before. And both groups made it to finals, which is a massive, massive deal. And so like our guard students can now say they're number 17 in the world for their class. And the percussionists can say they're number 14 in the world for their class.
In the world.
And that's for little old Hernando to be able to say.
And colleges are going to look at that?
I mean, that's a massive deal. And it's just the experiences. Like I told the kids on our finals day, when you're up there, you do prelims and then semifinals and then finals. And you're waiting around the rest of the day to see if you made it, wait for your scores and all that. And so when we finally knew we made it, I pulled all the kids in and I said, when I was in high school, I didn't even know any of this existed. Like I was from a little town that didn't do any of this kind of stuff. And I said, so for you guys to be from a town of 15,000 people, 17,000 people.
Yeah, small.
And to be competing against group. I mean, there were schools in our class that are spending $90,000 on just that one event. And we're not spending anywhere close to that, I can tell you that. But, spending that huge amount of money and have 5,000 students that go to their school and do all these things, And so for little Hernando to be in the discussion is pretty cool for our kids. They were ecstatic. And so those are some of the largest just kind of, whoa, can't believe we did it kind of things. And it's all about the kids, man. Like they just...
And I would gather there's been moments where a kid is, without realizing it, interested in joining the band because it's the Hernando band. You know what I'm saying? Like they might be interested in, I've always wanted to play trumpet, this, that, but man, I want to be in that band.
Yeah.
Specifically. So now that
motivates
them more.
We have had some kids that, like we had one girl who was homeschooled, and she came out of homeschooling in middle school exclusively because she wanted to join the band, and we love kids like that because it's, come on, anybody is welcome. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's super cool for our kids to be kind of rock stars in their thing, and we want to give them as many opportunities to do that as possible. So,
well, sitting back at the high school games is always fun.
Yeah.
Just seeing, it sounds amazing, but then visually.
Yeah.
Who does all the...
So we're a pretty large team. There's the core 4 directors, 2 at the middle school and 2 at the high school that all work together.
And what are their names?
So Tyler Harris is with me at the middle school. And then Miss Victoria Jones and Lynn Kilo. Kilo is the head director of bands. Miss Jones, unfortunately, is moving on this year, but we've hired another band director from Olive Branch, Mr. Fitzgerald, to come in. And so the 4 of us work together on all aspects of the band program, but then we hire in people to teach private lessons and sectionals. And the guy you're talking about is a guy by the name of Jeremy Driver, who is an elementary music teacher in Shelby County. And he just about 12 years ago decided he wanted to work at Hernando and started coming down. And he started with working with the color guard. So just the flags and rifles and stuff. And then over time, his role has kind of grown. And now he does all the visual type stuff for the band. And he also he and another guy, his friend lives in Texas and was for a long time was a member of the Army band in Texas and the commander of the Army band. And they actually design all the shows together. And so they decide what music we're going to play and what the props are going to look like and all that kind of stuff. And so it's pretty cool.
Anyone driving by the school on Mackinvale at late summer.
Yeah.
You guys, those kids are drilling out there.
Yeah,
and I live at the Magnolia Apartments.
Okay.
Right next door. I can hear that metronome. Ding, 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 ding.
That's what everybody says, the metronome. Yep, absolutely.
And I'm like, I think they're out in that heat more than the football team. I'm pretty sure. You guys,
I think you're right. Yeah.
Maybe it's because you're right on the street and we see it.
Yeah.
But it's pretty impactful to see that and be like, yeah, these kids are dedicated. I mean, they're out there working.
It is.
So they so deserve and earn their accolades. Yeah.
That's what we tell people all the time is that we love our jobs, but our jobs would be nothing without the kids that we get to teach. And Hernando's got, the best kids around. So
I agree.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. I wanted my kid.
Absolutely.
I wanted my kid here in these schools.
And so many people are that way. They moved to Hernando for the school system, so that's pretty cool to be in a place like that.
Joseph, this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been awesome. Man, if my audience doesn't enjoy this, man, they're sleeping,
Well, thank you.
Because it's so easy. Anything that has to do with our youth.
Yeah.
Is special. And then band and sports, that's special. But then Hernando's on the map because of you guys.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
So it's outstanding.
Kids are something else.
So thanks for taking the time here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to do a quick outro here and then we'll say goodbye. So thank you for watching this. To our listeners, I'd like to remind you that you can go to therealhernando.com to learn more about this podcast. Go check out our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, Instagram, and TikTok. All three are at The Real Hernando. If you're watching this, you can also catch us in the audio-only versions on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Audible, iHeartRadio. And if you could, sharing is caring. So this episode is going to come out. You're going to see a series of clips on our socials. Share it to your story. Share it with a friend. Go to our website, open up an episode, grab that URL link, send it to someone that you think might be interested, especially with this one. If you know of kids that are interested in joining band, I think this would be a great thing for them to watch. So sharing is caring, and that helps. That helps the community, helps this podcast, which helps my small business, helps the band. It's a full circle deal, and simply by just sharing a post can make the biggest of the differences. So thank you for doing that. And again, Joseph, I appreciate you being here. And look, maybe we can do this again next year.
Absolutely.
Well, if you get first place, we'll have you back in.
That's right.
Second place is last place, though. No, but
that's right.
Awesome, man. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you, man.
Take care.
Yep.